It's off recording.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, ready to go. So Vance, definitely want to get into a lot of your story today, understand kind of why you're here and all the stuff that you're up to. But
Yep.
first, we have to start with how you psyoped me into putting beef tallow and blue dye on my face every single night.
How does your face feel?
Dude, it is actually incredible. Like spectacular.
Awesome. So I was in the methylene blue space at that point already, and I wanted to put it on my skin because all the studies that I was reading about it and like the actual mechanism of methylene blue on the skin just seemed amazing. And I didn't want to dye my skin. At the same exact time, I was seeing everyone use tallow, and I just switched over to egg yolks for shampoo, and I was like, man, like I have to be able to use tallow on my skin too. So I'm gonna make that. And it all clicked. I was like, what if I dilute the methylene blue in with the tallow? And then
Mm.
that's where I put it in. And then I already knew mechanistically, like vitamin C and some other micronutrients could reduce the blue in the methylene blue. So as soon as I put it in the tallow and I saw like the blue didn't just stain it, and it actually like degraded it a little bit, I was blown away. I was like, okay. And I rubbed it on. And I mean, it was like 2 days from idea to actually having a created bottle in front of me, and
Let's
it was
go.
just it was such an amazing feeling, just like the execution and everything.
Man, that's so awesome. And I'm curious, like I'm just curious on two fronts.
Hmm.
The first one that is what is it about like methylene blue in particular that has such good skin effects?
So it's a antioxidant. So a lot of the times that, well, you have like the internal and the external, right? The internal would be like your liver functioning, your detox, functioning, you not eating junk food that your body doesn't like to sit well with. And 9 times out of 10, when you guys like when people get acne, it's actually your liver is having an issue with like the 4 phases of detox, and so it's just rushing whatever it can find out of the skin in the fastest way possible. So instead of you excreting something via urine or like sweat, it's going to actually form it with the white blood cells and get it out that way. So, from my general understanding, I'm not a skin expert actually, which is hilarious because I do have a skincare product. It is most of the time when it's internal, it's from the liver, but anything oxidative on the outside. So, let's say like sunlight, you go out, you get too much sun and you burn. Methylene blue is a powerful antioxidant. So, that oxidative stress that would hit the actual mitochondria or whatever in the skin cell that would make it overload and burn and become a like an actual insult to the skin. Methylene blue can get in and handle a ton of that stress and then reduce the amount of insult your skin would have felt in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's powerful antioxidant that mixed with the micronutrients and the antioxidant capabilities of tallow. And it's just like someone asked me the other day, they said, what do you think is the percentage of like methylene blue helping or tallow helping the skin? I was like, man, it's got to be
Good
50
question.
50. Yeah, it's got to be 50-50 because I've burnt with tallow before and I've peeled, and I've burnt before and I've never just shoved methylene blue on me. But for whatever reason, when I put methylene blue in with the tallow and I've gone out and I've gotten like nasty burns and I put it on, never peeled. And then I got the craziest suntan ever too. So it was like my
Mm.
body was actually able to handle that stressor and not be insulted by it in a negative way, where it was like, oh, the skin's dead, apoptosis, blah. And my aunt was like a credit to that. She's got massive burns on her thigh, and I just posted the tweet, and it was like
Yeah,
2 days
bring
later,
it up.
perfect tan, perfect tan. So I'm just blown away. Like honestly, it was a cool idea, but I had no idea. Like I had no idea how it was going to actually work. So we did the tests and we tried it out, and I just feel like one of the most blessed people in the world to have such a cool skincare product. Like I'm blown away. I love it.
Dude, I love it as well. I mean, I've only had it for like a week now, but I
Hmm.
think it was like on day 3 I was looking in the mirror and I was like, I'm I'm pretty sure this is like really working.
Yeah,
It's a great product, brother. I
I appreciate
salute
that,
you for
dude.
figuring it out.
Yeah, I appreciate that big time, dude. It was like I said, kind of lucky, but also I've done my due diligence. I've done my years of research. Like I said, I'm not a skin expert, but I know enough, and I kind of like everything lined up perfectly. I was like, will this work? And it worked.
Dang.
Yeah.
Let's go, bro. Let's go. So before methylene blue, before all
Yep.
this like esoteric health stuff, what do we need to know about you? Like what's can you give us like the rundown of your backstory?
Yeah, I'm a runt, dude. I am like I come from a long line of warriors in my family, hardworking men, but they're all able-bodied. Like they're all big. My dad's 6'4". My grandpa was 6'5". I'm related to Hammering Hank Elrod. He was the first Congressional Medal of Honor winner in World War II. Like massively well-renowned pilot who ended up sacrificing himself to save a bunch of people in a battle during World War II in the Pacific Coast. So like I have these crazy like bloodline relatives who are all known for like being warriors and whatnot. And then I came out of the womb and like thin bone, no athletic ability. I'm gonna get a little sidetracked, but did you ever see that video? There was like the Roswell alien crash, and they did like the behind the scenes autopsy of the alien that died. I don't know if it's a real video or not. It's fake. Have you ever seen that video though? It's like the huge alien one.
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay,
so. Which is
so
surprising because I love going down those rabbit holes.
yep, me too. So there's a video of this alien, and it's got like small body, gray, super big head, and then the eyes are all black. And they're about to do the autopsy on it because it's dead, and they pull these lenses off the eye. So, and the black of their eyes is actually like a contact sunglass lens. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, dude, what if these are just us in the future? And so I have this like, I have a like gut feeling that like if we were to keep going the way we're going, we're gonna look like little aliens. Like we're gonna be pale, we're gonna have big heads, small bodies because we only be athletic. Like we're evolving for the worse. And so I truly think I'm a product of like modern day society, like how it is affecting our bodies. Like my feet are messed up because I always wore cleats, right? I had IBS, terrible IBS as a kid. I got given glasses early on, and so my eyesight's kind of poor. So I truly feel like I'm like ahead of the curve on the evolution for the worst, if that makes sense. So I've been
Totally makes sense.
yeah. So I've been combating it like nonstop. And so me and my dad always get in these arguments, and I'm like, he's like, you don't need to eat that crap. Like, I'm healthy. Look at me. I was like, Pops, like the first 40 years of your life, you had minerals in your soil, let alone like not having the abundance of the other crap given to you. So I think nowadays it's like you have to address those things. So my backstory is I'm the run of the family, but I really think it's like kind of a product of modern day times. So what is now normal? It's not, or common. I wouldn't say it's normal. Everything we do is not normal. Everything we do is common. So so I was born with a huge chip on my shoulder. I've always been drawn to fighting. I've always been drawn to athletics. I was so bad in high school at athletes. You had Rob on, right? Earth Poppy, the grounding guy.
Yes, sir.
That guy is a track star. And so we were chatting, and I was telling him my 400-meter times in high school, and he thought it was like because I'm a professional athlete now, like I'm a world champion MMA fighter, I'm capable. But in high school, dude, it was a different story. You're talking 5'7" chunky Vance. So I had no fast twitch, no nothing. I mean, I paid for all my athletic ability with like blood, sweat, and tears, literally. And so I told him my time, and he was blown away. He's like, dude, girls can run 600 meters and what you did your 400 meters in. And I was like, yeah, bud, I know. So it's cool. And looking back, it sucked. It definitely did suck coming up. I paid for everything I've gotten. Like I've had to work my ass off to get everything, but I'm grateful for it because it taught me how to do things the right way, and it taught me how to delay gratification.
I mean, dude, it's so often that like I hear that story on the podcast of people like taking this thing that's like either a huge setback or just something that doesn't go their way and turning it into the thing that like makes them the person they are.
Yeah.
Like it truly is just like the obstacle is the way. It's like such a common theme throughout the podcast, and you can't hammer it enough because it's true in my own life, and it's just like you see this theme over and over again.
Yep. No, it's facts. And I firmly believe, I heard, it's funny, I heard Conor say it, Conor McGregor, which I think he's kind of fallen off, but he is successful for what he's done. But he said this best. He said, the successful and the unsuccessful people, the only difference between them is they both know what they have to do, but only one's going to do it. And I was like, man, dude, like the secrets hide in plain sight. Like there's no one shot fits all secret that we all read a book and we have this ancient knowledge that you don't. It really kind of boils down to like, if you want the base level of whatever goal you want in your life, it's usually work hard at it, be consistent, run through the failures, learn from your mistakes. And, every lesson isn't a lesson, it's a blessing, and truly treat it that way. And no matter what, as long as you get up after every knockdown, you can't lose. That's that.
It reminds me of this quote from the Book of Five Rings. When you know the way broadly, you see the way in all things. Because it's that same principle. It's like, once you start to get better at one thing, you start to realize like, oh, there's no secret. Like it's just this daily consistent effort that I have to do day in and day out and like keep with and keep focused. And then you can achieve things that the people that it looks like skill, it looks like you just were given this amazing talent, but it was you earned it, and it's like it's such a cool theme because it transfers for everybody, and everyone could take advantage of that. Like everyone
Yep.
has that ability to do something um, very cool. You know, it's
Yeah.
not for just a select group of people.
Yeah, and but I mean, humans are we've we have a lot of things with our brain where we're wired for survival. We're not wired for success. And so I really truly believe that's where we get a lot of the issues we have modern day. Like I mean, even during the pandemic, like you saw the virtue signaling. And that's purely people going against their intuition, and they were doing it because if you think of our chimpanzee brain, like back in the day when we were in tribes, if you didn't fit in, you died. So you have to fit in. You have to do what you think's right. You have to do what you think people around are going to be acceptance of. And that's your survival mechanism. Your success mechanism might be going against the curve and doing something that you're like, man, no one's going to like this now, but maybe in the future. And it's so hard to do that, to turn off that like primal instinct brain of like just trying to fit in and like just really living your own life. And I mean, we're great at messing up like the easiest successes ever and overcomplicating things, overthinking things. And so you have to be conscious of that.
Yeah, you have to be conscious of it, and like especially now with like phones, it's so easy to get so concerned about like what other people think about you, and just like
Yep.
convince yourself that the doing nothing's the best idea because that's the only way you're not going to get any criticism. Like it
Correct.
is so easy to like never start writing on Twitter, never start making the TikToks or like all the stuff that you think is going to move you and your business forward, but just because you're embarrassed what like your eighth grade girlfriend is going to think of you, it's fucking ridiculous. But
It's the
it
truth.
happens to like everybody.
Yeah, no, it's facts, dude. It's facts. So, luckily, I think one of the coolest things coming up was I loved Dragon Ball Z, and I always saw Goku literally not give a shit about what was going on. He just did his own thing, and I admired that as from a young age. So I never wanted to be like doing what's in and what's new and like keeping up with the Joneses. I was like, I'm just gonna do me, and if people don't like that, that's fine. And it was truly a blessing because I feel like the first step of like waking up to everything is that awareness of like being like, oh, we're in like a huge kind of rat race, a huge game, the 9 to 5, that go to school your whole life, get a job, die. And then waking up from society and like trying to fit in and be the cool guy and accepted by everyone. And, if you can get away from that, that's like the first step. And to do that, you have to like know yourself and love yourself and like truly like not care what anyone says. But no matter what you do, no matter what you tell yourself, like the first time you get that hateful comment or that retweet or like that quote tweet of someone trying to make fun of you, dude, it like you have to build a callus. You have to like build up and get used to it. And like, so luckily, methylene blue is one, it's heavily studied. So when I became like the methylene blue guy and I was preaching about it, and it's like this awesome snake oil looking thing that can cure so many different, like a myriad of diseases or like cause a myriad of benefits, everyone's going to go to attack that. But it's so studied and I have so much proof of concept that like it's so easy to like combat with. So when I first started, man, it was like, I remember my girlfriend being like, get off the phone. And I'm like in the backyard till 11 p.m. I'm like, I have to respond. I have to respond. This guy said this, that's incorrect. And I remember going at it with people and like it bugging me. And it's like a few months of doing TikTok posts on methylene blue. And I'm like, I was callous. Like people could say whatever. And I was like, all right, I don't care. And then you move on. So it's a skill. It truly is a skill.
It truly is a skill, and we're definitely gonna dive into methylene blue and your kind of whole world you've been up to on social media. But before that, you only quickly mentioned, you said, "Yeah, I'm a world champion fighter." Um, so tell us a little bit about your fighting career.
Yeah, so it's amateur for sure, which so there's like a little asterisk, like it's not the highest level, but Olympics is amateur as well. When you think of an Olympic gold medal boxer, that's an amateur boxer. In MMA, it's the same story for me. I have a world title. It's considered a world title for Fierce Fighting Championship, but they only fight in like Utah, Montana, Idaho. So it's kind of like Midwest, but the other one was with Tough Enough, and they're the number one amateur organization in the world. So my first title fight, and I fought in a stadium that holds like 18 to 20,000 people. So that one means a lot to me. So when I tell people like I'm an amateur world champion, it's like in my head I kind of laugh at it, but at the same time I know how much it does mean because I need to find the percentage of champions out of Tough Enough who make it to the UFC. And you're talking like Ronda Rousey, like big names have fought for Tough Enough, won their title, then went to the UFC. So they have such a huge alumni of fighters who are in the biggest show right now. Because what most people will do, I mean, I was even in Ireland and I was telling them, like, you know, where I was from when I was training. I was training at Conor McGregor's gym for a day just because we were on a family trip. I want to go train. Talked to some people there and they're like, yeah, like, where are you fighting? I was like, oh, I fight in Vegas. I fought for Tough Enough. And they're like, oh, fuck me, Tough Enough, mate. They're like, yeah, we fly boys over there for the last Ami fight, because it's like the biggest premier amateur show ever. So it's a weird thing. But yeah, I'm an amateur world champion, but I've been fighting for over a decade now. I took my first fight when I was 19, fought a 32-year-old dude who trained his whole life, just got out of prison. Yeah, he threw me around a bit, won a decision. It was good on him, but I almost finished him like 4 times. I was just a grappler. I only did jiu-jitsu, and then I was like, okay, I got to learn this stand-up thing. And luckily for me, on my mom's side, my great-grandpa was a featherweight boxing champ of the world at the time. He boxed under the name Eddie Murphy, and I don't know if it was genetics or what, but like jiu-jitsu and grappling has always been tougher for me to learn. Like it really takes effort and consistency and all this, but like boxing, I could watch someone do a technique and I could like land it at like max speed, full 100% spars. I didn't have to like practice it or anything like that. It just came super easy. So fighting is my first passion. It's my love. It's like my main thing in life. Before I go to this grave, I want to be the best fighter I'm capable of being. And I truly believe that fighter is like the best fighter to ever walk this planet. It's just such a passion for me. But with all of that being said, the more I learned about business, the more I learned about, you know, other ways to make a buck, and the more I see how or who's pulling the strings on fighters and fighting, the more disgusted I am with prize fighting. So I have this weird thing where I love fighting, I love combat, and something I'm going to always do. But prize fighting and the way it's done now, I see how dirty it is, and I'm like, it's so tough for me now to take the traditional fights and like go through a promotion. And you know, like this next fight I have in 5 weeks, I'm paying over $1,000 in medicals, and if I win this fight, you know, and there's no guarantees in this life, I win this fight, then I get $1,000. But at the end of the day, I'm paying to fight right now. It's so sickening that I could take concussive impact and have to pay for it for other people to make money. That's the part, for other people to make money. I'm always down for a knock. I'll do it for free. I've swung for way less than $500, you know, but I don't want to do it while other people are making a dime off of me getting hurt. That's terrible. Or me hurting someone. That's even worse.
So one thing you hear fighters say a lot is how you learn so much about yourself, like through that pursuit and through getting hit in the face and through those like long hours in the gym. What do you
Yep.
think like fighting has taught you about life?
Everything. And I mean, there's so many lessons, like doing everything correctly. So right now is like the start of the business, and we got the first huge pops, and we're doing great, and it's beautiful. But I've always done everything correctly. Like I made sure every order I've ever gotten, like I look at the name on the shipping label. It sounds so woo woo and sounds so romanticized, but it's true. I see a name on a shipping label. I have a stack here, and every single name, when I put it on the box before it goes, I look at the name, and it's like I feel that gratuity. One, it makes me feel good, makes me feel fulfilled. But two, it also reminds me like every single person matters, because I've gotten, you know, crap service. I've gotten crap orders. I'm like, okay, like what the hell? I don't want to treat people like they're just, you know, they're nobodies, because these are the people that are like trusting me with their products. So I love that. So when it comes to fighting, though, it's like when you're in the gym and you're drilling, if you do half-ass drills, you don't push yourself, you know, you don't do the hard stuff, whatever it may be, you kind of get lazy. You learn real quick in a life or death combat situation, like how hard you worked in camp. Um, and if you kind of like just go through the motions, and when you're going live in the fight and the techniques aren't working, like you're never like, oh, I'm happy I went through the motions. You're so upset that like you didn't train your hardest. And it's the same thing if you get tired in a fight, because I got tired in my first fight, and it changed the way I look at conditioning. Conditioning was like this eye roll thing. We just got to get through it. And then you get tired in a fight and you're like, oh my gosh. So now every time I'm doing conditioning, I'm like grateful for it, because I know like, okay, this is going to keep me going in a fight. Because when you're on a treadmill running, it sucks and you don't want to do it. But when you're in a fight and you're trying to defend yourself and you're tired, it's not the same feeling like, oh, this sucks. It's more like, I want to go and my body's not capable. Like this is a whole different feeling. So I learned that. And I also learned like through fighting, the only time you'll feel confident in a fight, or like, you know, going into a fight, is when you've done so much work that you're so fatigued from training that you don't even care about the fight. If you work your absolute hardest and you leave no stone unturned, by the time it's time to fight, your nerves are so gone because like there's nothing else I could do. And so same with business or whatever it is I do in life. Like if I work my absolute hardest at making like sure I do 100% effort, you kind of lose like the stress or like the getting in your own way of doing business. Like it's super easy at that point. You just are doing your absolute hardest work, going to bed every night. You're not stressing about this, that, this task list, whatever it may be. The harder you work, the less stress you feel in whatever you're doing. So if you know, like say you want to be a biochemist and you're stressing, you have a test, or like, you're nervous about how am I going to run a business? How am I going to, make a dime? Whatever it may be. If you're working your absolute hardest every day and you can go to bed and be like, yeah, that was a good 12-hour day, you're going to go to bed and sleep just fine, knowing that you're leveling up your skills or you're doing whatever you need to do to make sure that you're comfy or you're safe in whatever craft you're training or working at.
And the reverse of that is so painful. And like I think we kind of have all been there, where you wanted something and you didn't give it everything, and you just lay
Yep.
back at night and know that you left so much in the tank.
Yep. That's the worst feeling ever. The worst feeling ever. One of the coolest things I did learn about fighting that I didn't think I was going to learn is like fighting is one of the truest things ever. So when you're on the mat with someone, like they can't fake being good or they can't have an ego to an extent and not be good. Like you can just shatter it. So you get to see people for who they really are. But my coach at the time, when I was coming up in jiu-jitsu, I talked about this a little bit. He told me, he's like, no matter what, like one, you're learning a skill and it's one of the hardest skills that to learn, like combat. So after you learn this skill, you could do anything in life, because showing up as a white belt and getting choked out every single day, I mean, no failure is going to ever be as bad as that in anything else. Like you're never going to have to pay physically with your work. If I mess up like whatever it is with business now, I'm not paying by getting choked unconscious, like, or my arm cranked, or like some sweaty dude on top of me and just making me uncomfortable. It's just like little mistakes that I could fix. But he also told me like you're going to be surrounded by some like people who are like going to end up being high level people, and you're going to know them for like who they really are. And he kind of put this like networking thing in my head, and I had no idea what he was talking about back then. Like, and getting surrounded by like-minded people who are honest people, and like how powerful that could be. And I see everyone I trained with now, and the guys who still don't train and like they left, they're all doing really well because they met some of like the best people in the world. And so really I was like, wow, like when it comes to like networking, and like thankfully people like you and everyone else I've met on Twitter that like I connect with, we're all pretty like-minded in that sense. I feel like we're all trying to level up. We're not falling for this stupid mainstream culture. We don't care what people think. We're just really trying to grow, find truths, like not be married to ideologies, and like be the healthiest, best versions of ourselves. And I've came across like the coolest people ever on Twitter. Like I'm like, holy cow, like I've known this guy for 2 weeks and I consider him like a cool friend. And like I want to be around this guy. So networking was a big part. I didn't really think, or like a team, in a solo sport, I didn't think that would be something I learned, but I learned it big time in fighting, which is kind of ironic.
It holds so true to fighting. And it's funny because like Twitter is one of the only places I think like the opposite. I mean, that it's also true, because
Yep.
like you think about daily life, right? And when you're an uncommon person, or you're like striving to really get better and you want to be like uncommon amongst uncommon people,
Yeah.
finding those people that are like your friends that you can relate with and like actually want to spend time with and push each other, you can't find that in daily life. Like it is so hard to find people aligned with you in that vision when you're trying to become uncommon.
Yep.
So like the internet, fighting gyms, like such good places to find like those people who actually get it.
Yeah. No, and that's hard to do, especially I think, right, it would be so hard nowadays if you weren't in that. Like I understand where a lot of people come from when they talk about like trying to find the best friend group, and they can't. And I'm like, man, they're like, I don't have my tribe, I don't have my team. And I'm like, dude, I could see how easy that would be, but at the same time it's like it's kind of like getting white pilled with the phone and everything, like realizing today is one of the best times to be alive because it's so easy to go out and make friends, and you could be the most introverted person ever and be so well connected nowadays, and like have like a just a wealthy group of people around you that can make you better, or like that you can confide in, or you could ask for help and like, or just advice in that way. And that's like one of the beauties of modern day, whereas before, if you're out on your own, you're an outcast or introvert in a tribe, like we talked about the primal brain, good luck, like you're probably not going to survive. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And like the other side of that as well is like I was thinking about this earlier today. Like I put the tallow methylene blue on my face. I put on my soul bra shorts. I put on my Gaia sandals, and I'm like, and then I
Yes.
go to read a book by an author who I've had on in the podcast in the past, and it's like for the first time in my life, like I have a sense of connection with so many people whose products I indulge with in the daily basis. And there's
Yep.
like a certain beauty to that. It's a really cool part about just this whole world.
No, yeah, you're it's man, that's why like it's kind of hard to talk about like a cliche thing because Twitter is such a like a weird anomaly for that. I feel like I even didn't even find that on Instagram or anything else. It reminds me of the old school like buddies you would get online gaming. You know, it's like you might find like just a cool little community of people, and it's like this way to connect with almost everyone in the world on our phone, and then to be able to weed it out and like find people who have your same core values, you know, and your character, like whatever you are as a character, as like a man or a woman or whatever, like what you stand for, basically. And then they're going to be aligned with it. It's just so phenomenal to me. And it's something that's hitting, like, I'm new to Twitter. It's not like I've been on, you know, deep in the game for like 8 years doing it. Like I've been hitting Twitter hard for like maybe 6 months. I always had one in my fight career, but like I never engaged or anything like that. I'm used to Instagram where like we post, you see what other people post, kind of like it. It's like we're all just, it's like a bunch of people just flexing, peacocking, and like
Yeah.
admiring or whatever. But Twitter, it's engaging, it's conversation, it's trying to, you know, you could have some tough conversations on Twitter. But yeah, dude, I'm the same exact way. It's like met Soul Bra and like joined the Soul Club, and I was like, holy cow! Like I got my eyes open to like all these people, and then I joined Jake Youngblood's like Irrational Optimist, and I was just like, whoa! In a time where I feel like sometimes I'm outgrowing like people around me, it was like to be surrounded by so many people and just chasing the same dream. I was blown away by it. So yeah, I'm big on technology. I'm not gonna say like anti AI, anti phone, or anything like that. I understand like the evils with it, but it's so hard to argue with nowadays, like how great it is.
Yeah, I mean, you posted something along these lines today, but like you can alchemize the technology to become this thing that's like incredibly beautiful and like propels you to such great success.
Mm-hmm.
But used in the wrong way, it could be a piece of lead. Like it could just be this thing that does nothing for you or even hurts you. Like there's so much power there to use it for good. Like if
Yeah,
you're able to use it for good.
exactly. Yeah. And then the more you're aware too, the more you're aware of like what the restrictions are on technology too. Like it's not this like holy grail like we think it is at the same time. Like, and
Right.
that's part of the reason I couldn't figure out stuff about methylene blue at first. Like it's not like mainstream. You now it is actually, it's actually becoming more mainstream. But when I was like looking up a year ago, even like that you Google the benefits and it was like warnings. And now it's like you Google benefits and people are starting to catch on. And
Yeah.
so it's like one of those things, but you know, the difference is we don't have to hop on a boat, spend 6 months with a master to like learn from his library, you know, and then retain it and go write it down on our own. Like we can Google it, but the problem is how many times we gone to like the third page of Google or like the 14th page of PubMed. You know,
Wow.
it's yeah, it's hard to learn sometimes nowadays because they made it so easy.
Yeah. So let's dive into methylene blue because it is
Yep.
a really unique and interesting substance, or I don't even know what you want to call it, like dye. Um, but
Yep.
it's when you hear about it and someone just tells you like purely how it was made or how it was discovered, it freaks
Hmm.
you out. You mentioned that it's an antioxidant and that
Yep.
there's so many studies now preaching the benefits of it. Outside of the antioxidant properties of methylene blue, what is the superpower of it?
So just like layman terms, if we just talk benefits, it's gonna not in it enhances everything, but what it does by being an antioxidant and getting into the mitochondria, it makes your body produce more of its own energy. So every enzymatic function or any bodily function you can think of requires energy. Like we're electrical beings, right? So sleeping, digesting, food, thinking, I mean some of the easy ones, moving, these all require energy. So we know we get energy from food, but there's so many other ways we get energy as well. Like you had Rob on, so grounding, sunlight. And the more you realize that we're electrical beings and not just chemical beings, the more you know you start to understand the human body in the full picture. So methylene blue in layman's terms gives your body more of its own energy by upregulating ATP. And what that does, especially in the brain, because your brain needs a lot of ATP, it's gonna improve cognition. So your short-term and your long-term memory are going to be increased, or they're going to be benefited by taking methylene blue. Your focus is going to go up a little bit as well, because ADHD, you're not going to have those neurological issues that ADHD brain might have. As far as depression, it's going to be antidepressant. And then that changed the way I look at depression. So we always think, serotonin has a role with depression, dopamine and trauma and all these things, but I'm starting to look more of it as like a neurotransmitter dysfunction or a cellular dysfunction on top of these other things. And then you have a gas and match combo where depression's now coming out, and you think it's because you have a tough life, or you're not fulfilled, or you're not where you want to be. But really, maybe it's those things on top of your cells aren't firing correctly, and you're getting these, like, your body's check engine lights coming on in the form of depression, and you're equating it to like a rough childhood, where I don't think that's the case anymore. I really think it has a lot to do with like cellular dysfunction. So you have cognition, you have energy. Obviously, you're going to feel more energized, but not like a stimulant. You're going to feel it like not highs, whereas you could be in like the mud and be tired, but you take a stimulant and you can feel like you're running off caffeine energy. More so like your lows get lifted up because you're running on your own energy. So like no 2 p.m. crash, that kind of thing. And then the depression effects, the antidepressant effects, the cognition, the mood, but then people are having benefits like all around, where they're saying like their allergic reactions aren't happening as much when they take methylene blue. So we have a girl that my buddy's training right now, Michael Sheedy Fitness in Vegas, and I won't say her name just to leave it confidential, but I'm assuming she's going to be a great success story soon. And she has a autoimmune condition, and a like chronic inflammatory disease condition, where her body, no matter what she starts doing, she'll start developing these like inflammatory responses to it. So she's allergic to the sun. She can't even go outside. And so we're giving her methylene blue right now, which she was so weary to take. She's like, everything I take, I develop an allergy for. And it's helping right now with her like tolerance and resistance to things. So I can't wait to get that story out. But yeah, I mean, that's just a like small case of the myriad of benefits you could get from it. It's like, okay, so this blue dye, like you were saying, it's going to make me less depressed, it's going to give me more energy, it's going to improve my brain function. Oh, and then let's talk about where we even discovered it and the reason why. It's anti-parasitic, it's antibacterial, it's antifungal, and it's shown to be antiviral. So it can stop COVID replication, it's going to kill the parasitic infection of malaria. And you're like, snake oil. That's what you have to think. But then learning the mechanism, how it works, and like understanding that it affects the root cause, not a symptom. And then that's what really opened my brain up even more to like the esoteric stuff, like realizing Western medicine treats symptoms, and maybe things are more root cause than we think. And maybe multiple diseases could come from one root, and we're just not aware of it yet.
One of the things about methylene blue that's like super interesting to me is like a few years back, I really got into learning about Wim Hof and his whole style of breathing and just way of living, I guess you would say.
Yep.
And
Same.
Yeah. And so he had all these incredible success stories of people curing like all these very odd diseases, things that you wouldn't think would be able to be cured by a certain type of breath work. But it was because it it allowed the body to take in more oxygen. And
correct, yeah.
Methylene blue has that same function. Like it allows you to take in more oxygen.
Correct. So it reverses hypoxia. So if you were, yes. And so modern day, that's what it's still used for. Methylene blue's in every ER room almost, for the reason it's on the WHO list of like necessary medicines. That's not the right term for it, so correct me, someone please. But it is on the list of the WHO as like a registered drug for like vital interaction. So the ERs all have it stocked, because if you overdose on, say, cyanide or monoxide poisoning, you go to commit suicide, or God forbid you don't and you just get monoxide poisoning, whatever it may be, methylene blue will go in and it will reverse the syndrome called methemoglobinemia. So that's what happens when you overdose and your body's basically not making hemoglobin. You become anemic in a way, and it gets and reverses that, and also combats the oxidative stress of the overdose too, of the chemical. So yeah, it's potent in doing that. But now methylene blue also is a nitric oxide scavenger. And that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. So they, because it is reversing hypoxia, but it's also scavenging excess nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is on paper a free radical. So everyone's dosing NO. We want as much NO as possible. It's like beetroots 24/7, It's going to make better blood flow. It stops heart attacks, it causes vasodilation. But nitric oxide is not that black and white. It's just not this good compound you want all the time. Nitric oxide is more so a symptom. Let's say you have an insult to your blood vessels, or you are in an area where your body's like, say your body's almost becoming hypoxic. Your body will dump nitric oxide to create vasodilation. So it's kind of like serotonin in that regard. It's not easy to understand, and it's not black and white. It's very, very deep. But yeah, on paper, methylene blue will reverse hypoxia, and then it'll scavenge excess nitric oxide, which is a benefit. But no, it doesn't like kill a pump in the gym or anything like that. So that's the other thing I talk with people about. They're like, wait, it kills nitric oxide. I'm like, but it's not the same mechanism. It has a lot to do with how the mitochondria is handling oxygen in the cell.
And a lot of times with these things that are pretty powerful and have like a lot of benefits, there's also the reverse side of it where it also has some downsides, or just like some things with overuse that could cause some issues.
Yep.
Have you been studying at all like the side effects of either taking it too often or just taking it in general?
No, just keep buying it from me.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna do it no matter what you say. So
No, I'm joking. So this is what I tell people before trying methylene blue. Okay, and you had Rob on, so Rob's the man. Methylene blue and grounding kind of work in the same way. So if you feel like you have fatigue or your body's not working right, this is the way I explain to people. Like if you're never grounding, you're never getting sunlight, you have artificial blue light on you all the time, you wear Dre Beats wireless headphones like I am right now, you have all these insults to you going on. It's kind of like when your iPhone pops up in low battery mode and it's on 10%. And so for it to function, you click low power mode and the phone's not working as good. It doesn't work as fast. It's not as efficient as you would like it to be, as if it was at 100%. Grounding and sunlight will recharge your battery ASAP. The way I tell people methylene blue works is when your battery's old, you leave your car or your phone in the car too long and it's kind of heat damaged and it's not functioning properly, it doesn't hold the charge as well. Methylene blue is kind of like rebuilding that battery or adding a battery backup so that you can hold a better charge, because that's technically what it's doing. It's getting in there and it's interacting with the electron transport chain. So it's stopping electron slippage, which is allowing your body to harvest more energy from these electrons, make more ATP, make more mitochondrial water. And that's the beautiful thing it does. Now, what we were talking about with methemoglobinemia or methaglobinemia is if you go in with cyanide poisoning, they're going to shoot you up with like 150 to 300 milligrams of methylene blue. That is great for hypoxic reactions, like reversing hypoxia, but it's not that great for antioxidant reactions. So because you're flooding the body with it and it has to get it out, it becomes an oxidative stressor. Dose dependent, just like anything.
Yep.
If you take, probably 30 grams of vitamin C, I don't know if you'll turn orange. I don't know if you'll die. I don't know what will happen, but I know it's probably not good for the body to have that high of a dose. Same with methylene blue. So you do get this anti-hypoxic reaction where it's going to benefit the body medicinally there, but you're not going to get the antioxidant benefit. Now, low dose methylene blue, 5 milligrams to 15 milligrams, studied massively. You get the antioxidant benefit now. So we're not really worried about curing hypoxia every single day, but we are worried about, making sure our electrons are firing properly, or our electron transport chain rather. That's why low dose methylene blue is so powerful. So one, you're losing the risk of high dose methylene blue, so where the interactions could be bad. So you're taking low dose methylene blue now, and then you're giving your body the right benefits it needs. It's not becoming a stressor on the body where it's got to shuttle it out. It's using the methylene blue. So that's great. But methylene blue does interact with the serotonin receptors, and it's a MAOI inhibitor as well, I believe. Meaning, if you're on SSRIs or antidepressants, you could get something called serotonin syndrome. Now, this is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. Obviously, do your own research, get professional help. But I will tell you this, the studies, I want people, if you can, to Google methylene blue deaths. From USP certified, grade certified methylene blue at low doses, I'm not sure if there's a recorded death or not. I can't find one. Now, there are complications with antidepressants, SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And that's usually a high dose, though. That's usually at 5 milligrams per kilogram, which in a 70-kilo man, that's like 300 milligrams of methylene blue.
Damn.
So yeah, so that's where, okay, now you're getting serotonin syndrome, which could be fatal. So the best thing that you could do is, if you're thinking about taking methylene blue or anything like that, make sure you're not on any medications, just double check, but mainly antidepressants. Make sure you're grounding, getting sunlight first and foremost. And then if you still feel like, oh, you want to try something, see if you get a boost, then I would try it, and I would try it super low dose. And just see how you feel. With that all being said, my mom's on SSRIs, and we begin with low dose methylene blue. We start out like with a drop, then 2 drops, 3 drops, got her up to 5 milligrams, no negative interactions whatsoever. And I have to preface, this is not medical advice, do your own research, but I felt comfortable with giving it to my mom at very low dose, just because I couldn't find any studies on less than 1 milligram per kilogram and that triggering serotonin syndrome.
Mm-hmm. So I want to connect this back to your fighting career, because it's interesting to connect the dots and see like how you think all this stuff is affecting your performance, and then like post-fight career, all the stuff that you're doing, not just methylene blue, but like the lifestyle stuff, diet, all that stuff. Concussion wise, like obviously you're a fighter, like I'm sure that's on your mind somewhat. So how do you think it's been affecting your performance? And then have you noticed like any cognitive effects? Because I've talked to a lot of football players, and it seems like even in the middle of all of this stuff, they do start to feel a little foggy from getting hit daily. So I don't know if you've noticed any effects on that front.
I've never fully noticed like, okay, CTE. Now I played football before I did fighting, so I am kind of a picture perfect candidate for CTE. Any neurodegenerative disease, or like early onset Alzheimer's. So that is definitely a fear in my head. And let me rephrase that. That was a fear in my head, and I can wholeheartedly say that. And it's truly because of this compound. So obviously I believe in it. I take it every day. My whole company's based around it. So, take it with a grain of salt if you want, but let me just tell you exactly what happened. And that's how I started my company. Got my face shattered in my pro debut, and I ate 30 elbows. 7 days after that, I started researching compounds for concussion protocols, which I already had done, but I actually wanted to not collaborate, but get all of my knowledge concisely written down on a form, so I never have to do like all of these bookmarks I have saved on my Chrome and like put together a concussion protocol every time I hit my head. I just wanted to have it all written down, so I made an ebook on it, sent it off to a buddy to check out and be like, hey, also, if you ever hit your head, like, here's this is the research I've done. And he said, why haven't you put methylene blue in there? As my buddy Wes Collins in California. And I said, well, I didn't see any studies that seemed too beneficial about it, which third page of Google, going back to that. And he goes, go check again. And so that's where I first learned about the benefits, or what I thought could be benefits of methylene blue. And I had the same reaction as everyone else. Is that this is snake oil. Get out of here, dude. Like, it's a blue dye that's curing everything. And I've seen supplements do the most bold claims ever. So I understood it. But I said, you know what? After I read everything, I said, it's worth a try. So I took it, immediately noticed like a zing. So when I was taking methylene blue at the time, we're 7 days post-fight. If I tilted my head back, if I tilted to the left a little bit, it didn't really happen on the right, but just little tilts here and there, the room would spin, like spin. Like high school plastic bottle vodka spin.
That's okay. A bad spin, man.
It's a serious spin, dude. I'm serious.
There. Fuck.
Yeah. Who hasn't? If you haven't, you're missing out. But yeah, I was bad, dude. I was spinning. My equilibrium was off. I had every known concussion symptoms. I had headaches. I had sensitivity to light. I was depressed almost. Like, not depressed. I just I had no energy. I had no will to function. Everything seemed black and white. It was hard to think. I had brain fog. And within 20 minutes of taking this compound, even sooner than that, and it was still on my tongue, I'm like noticing a zing to me again. Just like it sounds wacky, like my chi, like life force is kind of back, And I was kind of blown away. And I said, okay, well, something's happening. Maybe it's short term, maybe it's long term. So I started doing double doses throughout the day. And it was about 4 to 6 days later. I want to say it was a couple days after. And I noticed I wasn't spinning as bad. So not only did I kind of have a little bit more energy and I could think clearer, and I noticed little symptoms were going away. that I had before a concussion, like just trying to like communicate better. Even it was like easy for me to take a thought and verbally speak it and have it like easy to understand and digest. And all of these things started happening within a week of taking it. And I said, okay, well, I'm like doing picture perfect concussion protocol at this point. I'm like macrodosing creatine. I have every supplement you can think of, Bacopa, lion's mane. I'm keto right now. I'm doing everything right. Ice baths, walking, whatever it may be. And I was like, okay, well, this is cool. And I think methylene blue helped at this point, but I don't think it's like the main reason I got better. I think it was like it helped everything. And then I kept taking it, and it was about 2 weeks after of taking methylene blue that I realized, like, okay, this compound is actually changing me, like, for the better, like, all around. And it was about probably a week after that where I realized that I felt better than I did before my fight.
Yeah.
And I had this crazy like breakthrough where I was like, what the hell? Like, there's no way. Like, I just every day I'm feeling better and better, and I'm thinking clearly, and I don't need 2 p.m. coffee. I'm like almost caffeine free, which I haven't been in like over a decade. I'm talking like 2 to 3 cups a day every day. And I can focus, and I'm happy, and I'm motivated, like extremely motivated. And that's when I started to deep dive it, and I was blown away by the research at that part. And then, man, I just couldn't believe it, and I had to get it out to people. So I started giving it to my friends, and they're the biggest skeptics because they always know I'm doing something crazy. I'm fasting. I'm doing a 3-day fast. I'm trying this one supplement. I'm trying that. And I always get hyper, and I tell them about it, and then it's like no big deal. Like I remember trying to get my friend to do 30,000 IUs of vitamin D a day with me. And then I paid the price because I think calcified me a little bit. But, I was always doing wacky stuff. And I had to like hound them, like, try this, try this, try this, try this. And then I noticed, like, as they started doing it, I wasn't the only one noticing benefits. Mm-hmm. I was blown away. And at the time, I was trying to get a pre-workout out for my company. And every time I post the pre-workout on my story on Instagram, and I post the methylene blue also, people always ask me what the blue stuff was. No one cared about my pre-workout. I remember telling them, like, oh, well, you got to order this from like this manufacturer in India. Then you got to get, this, and you got to mix it and reconstitute, and like trying to walk them through the process of it. And it was like this heavy thing. I had this epiphany. I was like, dude, why don't you sell this? Like, why don't you get it to people? And that's where I kind of had my breakthrough and my start with it, where I was like, I'm going to start selling this. Now there's the FDA and the CDC loopholes you got to do with methylene blue. So that was like the biggest reason I didn't want to. But after the proof of concept of like friends texting me just like nonstop, like, dude, I feel amazing. Like, this is the best I felt. My focus through the roof. Like, I have some in the website, like just from the beginning, but I got to go through all my texts of like, even the first month of me giving out to people, like the response. And I was just blown away by it. So I just chose to walk the path and start actually getting it to people.
Let's go, dude. That's awesome. Love to hear that.
So, that was a long rant. Sorry, bud.
No, not at all. I salute you, though, for taking the steps to try to find those solutions for yourself. Have you, in that process, did you ever come across Dan Garner? Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Dan Garner got me my first weight cut down. I've paid Dan Garner to be my nutritionist, my favorite nutritionist on the whole planet.
Dude, he's the man. I love Dan.
He's the man.
I did a mentorship with Dan last summer, but he just came out a few weeks ago, or actually a few months ago now at this point, with like the concussion ebook
protocol.
Yeah, have you checked it out?
I stole from that too. From that. I bought that and stole from that too. Yep, in my ebook. Yeah.
Is that
he's the man, dude?
He's the man. Was that a pretty good protocol? Like, what were some cool things from that stuff?
1,000%. 1,000%. That protocol is top notch. That if I ever told anyone a concussion protocol, it would be that one. And then Dave Asprey's concussion protocol, which is free online, you can find. Dan's you have to pay for.
Yep.
But yeah, dude, when it comes to my like, when I go full like get away from not being Western medicine and like actually someone who's like lives by the studies, but also like I understand how long has he been in this? Like 20 years. Ooh. So he's got 20 years experience. He's matching against the research also, so he could tell you when something's fake or like he's doing something. And he's even said, he's like, we do a ton of stuff that there's not studies on yet, but we know that work. And Dan's the man for that, because he's not guessing. He's not doing a one size fits all. He does blood work. He goes through and he sees like, oh, your liver function is bad based on these like 18 markers. And he goes, blood, stool, piss, urine. Dan's the man. I have nothing but praise for Dan. So with that being said, I've always wanted to ask Dan about methylene blue. That is an
I've actually talked
interesting.
to him about it.
Really? So what did he say?
Well, we didn't talk specifics because
Okay.
I told him to try it and get back to me because he had just gotten a red light at the time,
Oh, amazing.
and
Yeah.
I said experiment the synergistic effect of methylene blue with the red light, and he said
Exactly.
I'll try it out and get back to you, and he never got back to
And he
me.
never did.
So I gotta
I'm
talk to him.
messaging him. Yeah, I'm a DM him today. I'm a DM today. Yeah, Dan helped me get from 172 pounds to 135 pounds and win my first world title. So, yeah, so much respect for Dan. Yeah, that's crazy. I've listened to every one of his podcast episodes twice.
I mean,
That's
dude,
like my claim to fame.
that's a good show to listen to everyone twice. I've yet to find somebody who's as well, because what he does so cool is he will take like this like ancestor approach, like Eastern type of philosophy of
Yes.
being holistic, but combine it with like modern day technology, and
Yeah.
that's it's such a cool way of going about things.
Yeah, and I talk about that a lot. It's the left foot, right foot. Like a lot of people will go through life and they'll want to marry to one ideology. So you get the people who just want to marry. Well, there's no studies on seed oils being bad. I'm like, you're hopping on one foot. And then you get the other people who are like, I don't care what any research says. I don't care about the studies. Like, I just feel this way,
Yeah,
and I think it, and then so that's cool as well, and that's right foot. But if you could put them together, you can fucking walk, dude. Like it's way better way to live life is just taking the best of all the worlds, So the duality of the both, and Dan does that perfect.
100%. And Dan's working right now with Sean O'Malley about a
Yep.
fight for the world title. Have you have any thoughts on that fight?
So I don't even think I could legally give you a thought on that fight, but I can tell you this. I'm a Sean O'Malley fan.
Me too.
Just because I love anyone who can gather attention. And Sean's kind of the reason actually I started getting into like social media and content and everything, because I was fighting and he was outside the top 15 in a Lamborghini, and Volkanovski was fighting for a world title and making a fraction what he was making. And that's what literally led to me being like, prize fighting sucks. And Sean's one of the first people to be like, screw a manager. Why did they get 10% of my like fight of the night bonus? They didn't bleed with me. And I agree with that big time. So Sean's that. And then I've sparred Aljamain Sterling. So they brought me in to imitate Sean O'Malley. So I have firsthand experience. I am betting heavy money on one side. That's all I can tell you. And after they fight, we can chat again. But I am putting my money on one fighter in that big time. Okay. So it's amazing.
Oh man, I can't believe you just left me with that. It's gonna
I know
fuck
I'm
me
an
for a
Aljo
while
fan
now.
too. I'm a Sean fan, but yeah, dude, I have some great insider trading. I also got to bet money on Volkanovski before he fought Max Holloway the first time, and I bet a lot. I mean, at time I'm not killing it by any means when like financial. I don't got a Bugatti, but I bet like $800 on Volk, and he was like plus 400. So I had a cool payday on that one too.
Damn,
So
bro. Damn. So
yeah,
now like um something as like a fighter that always has interested me is like this idea of going into solitude for fight camp, or into like
yep,
a place with like only your team and only the
yep,
guys you're training with, and just focusing like getting this tunnel vision for this one thing
mm-hmm,
for a short period of time. And I
mm-hmm,
always have been so interested in that concept of
yeah.
and applying that to like other domains. Have you ever messed around with doing anything like that?
So I've never gone to the extremes, but I'll tell you right now, one, it's very fun to romanticize the idea, and two,
Absolutely.
it's very fun to do it too, like going away in the caves and like mastering your craft and coming out stronger and better, like a hyperbolic time chamber and Dragon Ball Z, or going to the woods and becoming a man, coming back. I love it, dude. I love it big time. I haven't really ever done that. The closest thing we do, and we're gonna do it again this camp, especially this camp, is we go up. I have a spot in Duck Creek, Utah. So my family has like this little tiny cabin. Like it's not even a cabin, it's a studio apartment at best. It was supposed to be a bathroom for like their trailer when we had one. And we go up there and we are at 9,000 feet elevation. We go get fresh air. We get the hypoxic effects of elevation. We reverse it with methylene blue, but then we build the red blood cell count by working out up there. So it's amazing. So actually, in about a week or two, I want to go up there. For the longest I've ever done it is like 3 or 4 days. I want to go up there for a full week and kind of do a little bit of my training camp up there, get away from everything. This is the first camp where, I mean, I've worked every single fight camp, but this is the first camp where I've been a business owner, and
Wow.
and it's yesterday I got the shit kicked out of me at sparring. And it's no coincidence that's also, you know, the day after I had the talos melt in the mail, and I just I started reshipping everyone their free talos, and I answered, you know, 100 emails, and I have 2 unhappy people, and I got 98 people who are happy. But it's like, yeah, it's just all this business stress, and it's really like, it's actually taken away from my mental, and it is taken away from my fight camp. And I had that realization yesterday. So, but like we talked about earlier, I'm going to work my absolute hardest. So today, like, I mean, I've been hammering it for Meraki and getting it all squared away. So that way, the next 4 weeks, I can focus and focus and focus. So yeah, we're going to go up to Duck Creek and we're going to do a little bit of training camp up there. But you're right. I've never gotten to, like, I know some fighters go away from their families and spend like 3 months somewhere, you know, and train. And I would love that. Like Gennady Golovkin goes to Big Bear up in the mountains for like 3 months, trains, and then fights. And then you come out of it and you go back to reality. Like, I think it's kind of good to, if you don't do that, like quite literally, you should do that mentally. So when you're chasing a goal, I think you should check out a little bit. Maybe turn the phone off, or if the phone's your business, maybe just kind of cut everything else off and just do less, but do more of the less, if that makes sense. So
Totally makes
if
sense.
you're, yeah, if you're socializing, game, whatever it may be, you know, just do a little bit less of the Netflixing, but then do more of like your craft. And it's a great way to level up real quick. It's like a bow and arrow, like pull it back, launch it, get the benefits, and then start chucking that bow back again.
How do you feel about this camp? Because
Uh,
you've been in it for like how long are your camps usually?
so I like to do 8 to 12 week camps,
Yeah, you're like
especially as a
halfway through.
professional. Yeah, we're halfway through right now. Just thankfully, because of how well versed I am in all this, and like I'm like almost mentally allergic to acetic oil. Like, you know, like I haven't wore a wireless headphone forever. I go full esoteric. In my off season, I'm still healthy as can be.
Yeah.
So my conditioning, like, to get from, I'm always in great shape, but like fight shape is just, it's sickening. You cannot hold fight shape. You will injure yourself. You will get sick no matter what it is. You have to peak at the right times. So just the start of like cutting back on some of the things I've been doing and like getting full healthy and like actually starting to push limits, I bounced back real quick. So I think it was Tuesday this week where I was like, damn, I'm in shape. Like, I feel good about this. So we have 5 more weeks. The main focus is still pushing limits, getting ready. Like, it's the hardest fight of my life. And then I want to say just really being injury prevented. Like, injuries are the biggest battle you're going to find in fighting nowadays, because you're doing concussive impact every day in the gym if you're sparring and whatnot. And like right now, my foot is trashed. I'm pretty sure it's a hairline fracture. So I haven't kicked in 3 or 4 weeks. I should not be saying this shit out loud. Sometimes I know I don't think my opponent's going to listen, but so yeah. So
I
I
could
haven't
cut
been,
whatever we need.
no, we're fine. I don't think let him listen. I don't even care. The foot's busted, bud. I'm gonna smash you with the other one. So yeah, so just injury preventions. Like right now, I'm dealing with the foot thing. So I finally can run on it now, and it doesn't hurt too bad. But I still can't kick with it or anything like that. It's like one of my main weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So just going around that. But camp's going great. Every time I have camp, I'm just a little bit. I'm leveled up nutritionally. I'm leveled up like with what works performance wise. I'm constantly evolving my mind, and it's paying off massively in training and fighting.
Do you fight on methylene blue? Like,
Yes.
yeah, I had a feeling.
Yes, 100%. So it's kind of like preloading creatine too. Creatine with concussions. I take it before the fight. One, definitely a focus, but you're not going to notice a crazy focus boost when you have a man for. You're already as focused can be. You're never going to be in there and be like, oh, I was just kind of brain fogged. Like, nah, your adrenaline's going. You're the best version of yourself. So, but I definitely fight on it just to mitigate any of the oxidative stress of maybe a concussive impact.
Have you ever messed around with like nootropics for a fight? Like, do people do that?
So yeah, there's some heavy nootropic heads. I like a few nootropics for sure. I was playing around with a few. I didn't do any of like the crazy hard ones. Like I mean, people are doing like peptides. I think it's like C-Max is one of them.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah. So
That's
no,
intense,
yeah, but no, I learned early on. Like my buddy one from was telling me, hey, when I fight, I'm doing like 3 scoops of pre-workout, and I was like, you don't want that. You actually want to be as reserved as you can. Like, you don't need a nootropic when that kind of like adrenaline's going in your head, you know. Nootropics, I think we want to use stimulants and nootropics when we want to do the boring work we don't want to do. Like, if we want to get creative, or like we got to answer 100 emails, so much easier to do with a little bit of nicotine and caffeine,
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing something you love, like you're sparring or anything like that, maybe the nootropic will help. But like when it comes to like a fight and it's full adrenaline, you don't need that. You feel fine. So I actually do a little bit less caffeine. I try to go in just as like normal, flat, well rested, because I know my body's gonna take care of itself. Like you walk out and that adrenaline hits, like you're a whole different version of you. So the main battle is being there and being present so you can calm it down.
That's such a good point, and it applies to more than just fighting. Like when you have something that you are revved up about, or you're gonna get like an adrenaline rush for, like taking
Yeah.
in more caffeine, like for some reason we think that's gonna like help us, but it always gives you like almost takes you out of that flow state because you almost get like too anxious. Like it brings you,
Mm-hmm.
it makes you uneven.
Yeah, no, it's facts. And like, I mean, I don't know if you take caffeine before a podcast, but I've learned I've actually don't like too much caffeine before a podcast. I thought it would make me smoother. And then I go back, I'm like, we hit end, and I'm like, what the hell did I just say? And then
Mhm.
I go back, I'm like, oh, I'm saying like, I'm saying, I'm saying, I'm sure I did it this one because I'm a little caffeinated right now, but
You ever mess around with paraxanthine? Are you familiar with that stuff?
Paris, it's not like axanthium, right?
No, it's
Is it
different.
different? I just read about it. I think you posted the coffee with
The
it
coffee,
infused
yeah,
in.
yeah.
I do. I have that in my cart. I just gotta check out. Yeah, no, I haven't. I haven't played with it, but I want to.
Dude, it's awesome. It's really cool because
Okay.
it's like the caffeine metabolite. So
Yes.
it's caffeine, when it's broken down, it has three metabolites, and
Okay.
paraxanthine is one of the metabolites, and it's a metabolite responsible for energy
Okay.
and focus, and you don't get like the jitters. You don't. It's really like a more smooth focus, and it has only a 3 to 4 hour half life. So caffeine like usually has
Oh.
this like 12-hour half life, but
Yep.
for that I could take it at 5 p.m. and it's out of my system by 9 p.m.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I need to try that for sure. And so you posted that, correct?
Yeah,
Like with
yeah,
the
yeah.
coffee grounds.
Yep.
Okay. Boom. And is that the best way to do it?
That's the best way to do it. I mean, there's like an
I'm
energy
doing it.
drink company, but
Yeah.
I prefer the coffee just because I like the taste of coffee, and it's a
Yeah.
little more natural than like the energy drink, which has like a bunch of fake sweeteners and stuff like that.
Exactly. I like those earthy tastes, like dark chocolate, coffee,
Yeah.
Shilajit. Like
Shilajit.
I,
I
I
like
make fun of.
Shilajit too. Everyone hates it. That's a
I
good
do.
one.
I do Shilajit lollipop. So I just put it on my spoon and I shove it in my mouth like first thing in the morning, or like get on the edge of a knife, scrape it out, and I just put it right in my
Yep.
mouth and suck on it. So yeah, no, I don't mind a little Shilajit lollipop, but a lot of people don't like it. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Losers. I also do straight methylene blue and raw liver sometimes. So I go for performance, not
Yeah,
taste. And then I end
absolutely.
up enjoying whatever it is, except for raw liver.
Oof.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's still bad.
so bad. Like I can't get over it. Like almost anything else, I'm like, I have this weird thing where like if it's healthy, I'll like train myself to like it, but I can't
Mm-hmm.
do it with the liver. It's way too hard.
Dude, I don't get it. And like they say the more you the worse it tastes, like the more you I forget, there's like a relation apparently, like the worse it tastes, the more you need it or something. I don't know.
Interesting.
I do frozen. I take it out so it thaws a little. I chop it up into like little cubes and I swallow it with OJ.
Mm.
That's the best way I could find. So you're supposed to chew it, and chew all of your food, but those fuckers get swallowed. I'm sorry.
So you just take it like a
I
pill.
yep.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to.
Yep. Almost no taste. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the best. I remember chewing it when I was first doing it. It's like in your teeth. It's like string. Yeah, it's all bad.
Yeah,
It's all
it's
bad.
stringy. Oh man, that's the worst. Um,
Yeah.
so Vance, I wanted to end this by. So how old are you right now?
29. I turn 30
All right.
next month.
So
Yep.
taking that
I'm
back.
getting to be an old play bunny.
So taking that back to when you were in your early 20s or just entering your
Okay.
20s, what is the stuff that you wish you knew then, like entering into this fighting career, entering into this world of health, that you know now that you wish back then you were aware of?
I when I was back then, a lot of the things that I really was already starting to get into my subconscious back then. I watched a lot of Muhammad Ali, and then I read the Secret to Living the Law of Attraction, and it realized like I realized at an early age how powerful the subconscious mind was. So I was fine there. I was fine with visualization, and I was already coming from like being a kid that never could play, so I would just go and like practice and visualize like I was in the game because I never got to play games and football or whatever it was. So I already had that dialed in. I would say back then, like I told you, I like Goku. He wasn't like trying to do anything for attention. He was just doing his own thing that he loved. And so I did that too. And I didn't realize I was fighting myself when it came to prize fighting. So prize fighting is like, it's all eyes on you. It's an entertainment business, you know. And I just, you get caught in this trap of thinking fighting's like this glorious thing and you should just be able to fight and get paid your way and whatever it may be, but it's everything's business. And I didn't get that back then. So I loved after high school, because I was this runt. I loved that I disappeared, and no one from high school heard from me. I barely posted on Instagram. I didn't have socials. And then it was like 7 years later, they start seeing me like flooring guys in a cage. And
So sick.
maybe it's narcissistic or vain or whatever it is, but I love that they had no idea what happened. They're like, oh, that, like, I probably was not in anyone's mind. And then I go bump into them. They're like, whoa, man, I haven't seen you. What's going on? And I'm like, oh, just fighting. And then like they go check out the fights, and they're like, holy shit, this is the runt. Like, what happened? You know. Um, but the other side was that is like I didn't get a chance to tell my story, and it didn't start clicking until my one buddy actually, like, I had this day. My buddy Eric said he went to my fight, and it motivated him to start training, do all these things, and I was like, I am kind of doing something different. It's kind of cool, I guess, and I didn't really realize I had a story back then. And like coming from like nothing and like paying for it with blood, sweat, and tears, I really wish I would have just like vlogged it or done something, like had some like document of what I went through. So I would just say like being more like one authentic to myself back then for sure would have been cool. Like not trying to, I had role models. I always wanted to be like someone else. And then two, like telling my story more so. Because I think if young Vance could have just told his story and like just been Vance and not try to be like all these other greats, it would have been a lot better for me. And I could have helped more people along the way. So now I really have no problem with like telling my story and stuff, because I do truly believe like I have a decent story where I ate a lot of shit. I never gave up. And I came out a little bit on the other end, like in a better spot. And almost every single time I hit a bump in the road, it's like the bow got pulled back. Every time I took a step back, my arrow shot farther. And I think that's like, if everyone could live their life like that, like there's nothing you can't accomplish. If you could turn every loss into a win somehow, every lesson into a blessing. And so that's just something I wish I would have done earlier on. Been cool. And then you guys could have seen Skinny Vance, dude. Skinny Vance, who looked like he had a trust fund. It was amazing.
That's a great way to bring this conversation full circle. Like the obstacle really is the way. Vance, I
Truth.
appreciate you, brother. This was a ton of fun to record.
Yeah, I appreciate you, my man. If you ever need someone to chat with, I'm your guy.
Absolutely. All right, brother. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Ryan.